Hey everyone, Randy with Extreme Sandbox. We're going to do one of our 360 training videos on skid steer training. We have not done one of these. Special thanks to United Rentals. They provided this case TR310 for us to do some training. So we've already done our site inspection, the equipment inspection, so we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and climb in the cab. First thing with anything, these are, skid steers are a little bit awkward to get into, so it's always 3 points of contact. A lot of places your feet can fall in, so you want to be really, really cautious on how you get in these machines. Kind of spin. Okay. So, once I'm in, close that up. Seatbelt. And then safety lock lever comes down. So this big bar, the safety bar right in front of you, generally the machine won't run or anything like that. So the new case equipment, they actually don't have keys. It's pretty kind of cool. It's in the back, the battery's on. So I've got a power button right here on the right. Hold that to turn the battery on. If it did need to preheat or anything, you can see that, and then all you do is hold the start button. So, let it warm up here a little bit. Now again, this is going to be an entry level. It's very much skid steer 101, so I'm not going to go over a ton. I just like to show a first person perspective from running this. Now we are running CAT controls, what I call them, or ISO. You'll see on this right side, there's two different standard patterns. ISO is more, again, CAT controls. That's where all the driving is on your left, your boom and bucket are on your right. That's probably the most common. The other is the H pattern, which I'm not going to go over, but generally it's driving forward and back. Each one of these controls one of your tracks, and then your left and right motions are what one side does your bucket, one side does your boom. Very awkward. I don't know how to operate those. I've never really run them that well. The other you'll see with Bobcats, sometimes a lot of old time people will have the foot controls where they raise like that. Again, can't do that at all. For myself at least, I can't. So the only foot pedal you'll see down here is a throttle. So there's two ways to control the throttle on a skid steer. Usually the more efficient way is your right foot you're going to use. There is a manual throttle you'll see here as well. But obviously for saving fuel, it's always ideal if you can just manage that with your foot. Now on the case here, again, I'm not going to go over too many details. Each machine's really different. Generally you got your displays up in the corners, your keys to turn them on. You'll see my parking brakes on here, all my indicators, my fuel. For this one to operate, this little flashing button is actually how I'm going to take this out of park. Pattern control there, my lights right there. On the left side, I've got my climate control up there on the left. I got my ways, there's a 2-speed, so I'll go to rabbit speed. If I want to unlock the attachment, I'll show you some of that. Lights, auto level, I'll show you that as well, and then our wipers. So on this, you'll see a bank of controls on our joysticks themselves. These would be all for accessory hydraulics. So the beauty of skid steers are kind of like a Swiss Army knife. So you can put a lot of different attachments on these, and that's what all these little buttons would control if I had an accessory on it. With a dirt bucket, you're not really gonna do anything else on that. So to get started here, again, parking brakes on. It will not go without that lock bar, and you also want to have your seatbelt on. So I'm going to hit operate right here, and you'll see parking brake went away. On the case model, once you initially get that parking brake off, you can control that. You see on your right thumb, there is a way to turn it on and off, but they make you do it the first time on the control panel. So with that, I'm just going to start with one motion at a time. We start with our right hand. If I pull this back, raises the boom up. And then if I go to the right, it's going to open the bucket. And if I go to the left, it's going to close the bucket. And if I go right hand forward, it's going to bring it back down. Simple as that. Generally curl it up. Your driving position for one of these, generally you want to be below your cab window so you can see all the way over it. You generally want to be a little bit off the ground just so you're not dragging the bottom of that bucket at all. So that's your right. With that, the left side is going to be all your driving. That's why I really like this ISO pattern. It's so simple. You basically point that joystick to where you want to go. If I go forward, forward, back, back, left, left, right, right. Simple as that, and then any degree of how I go that way, we'll go that direction. Again, they make it extremely simple. That's why I really love the ISO pattern. If you're a brand new operator, I highly recommend that one. So for this, we're going to go over a scoop. The biggest thing here is making sure your blade's flat. So you'll see right there, I want to roll that blade tip down. You can kind of see out front there where that blade is level to the ground. You go in, and then I just curl that bucket up. and I'm going to pull it back, raise it off the ground just a hair, and then back up. There's a big, what I like about these case models, they have a big wraparound mirror up here on the sides. That's really nice. So now when you drive it around, this is where I give it some throttle. And then we start raising it up. Now on this one, I've got the auto level. Most newer machines will have an auto level. And what that means is as I'm pulling back, if you can tell, that bucket's actually curling away. That's ideal. If you don't do that, so if I go down here and I take this off, you'll see this button over here. If I push that down, this will just keep that bucket in that configuration. Well, what's gonna happen here in a moment, I can probably fake it a little bit by jerking it. You see how that dirt's starting to come over the back side of that bucket? That is not good, and that's how a new operator gets the entire machine covered. Or if you got an open cab machine, you're gonna get dirty yourself. So generally, I recommend let the machine, anytime you can use a little bit of technology to help you, engage that, because now if I pull that back, it's gonna open that bucket while it's going up. The machine's sensing that. Now keep in mind, with that said, you can always override that, so you can curl it. So that doesn't mean you still can't make that mistake, because the machine will let you do that. So generally just make sure you're pulling straight back. And we come forward, you generally only wanna be high enough where you're gonna clear whatever you're dumping on. And I'm just rolling right to dump, like that. And then back up. Now a couple of things here. First of all, any of these machines, track machines, I mean this applies to wheel loaders too, low and tight to the ground is your best friend. The biggest time people get in trouble is when they are trying to drive around with this bucket way up above your head. This is if I'm trying to do anything here, my machine, right now I'm empty, so I'm not gonna be nearly as top heavy, but if you're loaded with dirt, this is where you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. So in general, you need to keep that low and tight to the ground below your cab. Skid steers is, they're great tools if they're treated with respect and safely. So it's gotta be low and tight to the ground. The other thing with the skid steers, they can be challenging. You know, the newer machines have gotten better with visibility. You see my rear window, I can see all the way out there. But these big arms come down right by the side. So again, being fully aware. So I'm glancing up to the mirror, but also looking over my shoulders. If you get in a really tight area, you'll notice how if you just pull this back a little bit, I don't be too high, but see how my visibility down low, if I'm getting in a tight area, increases dramatically. So you can see closer right next to you. So there's some other options there. So a couple other things we're gonna go over real quick. Floating the blade. So there's a couple different ways. This is basically disengaging the hydraulics. So you set this bucket flat, or roll it flat, and then there's a couple different ways. Each skid's a little bit different. Each company runs a little bit different. For the case, there's a button right here, right on my right joystick. I hold that, and I can hear it click down. Now my hydraulics for the boom are disengaged. So I can roll the blade a little bit if I want, but you'll see, and again, keeping an eye on where I'm going backwards, but you'll see how my boom is independent going up and down. That's how you can flatten things out. So it's a great tool at the end. And then at the end of this, to pull it out of float, I just pull back on that boom a little bit and I keep letting that trail off. And that's a great way. You know, another option to do that is if you actually have a loaded bucket, you'll have some weight down. So if you're trying to compact an area down. Other option on that, if you have a really broken up area that's really not even in at all, sometimes rolling that blade. So I can do the same thing. I'm on the ground, holding that right trigger, that right button, pushing it down, and then rolling that so I can actually see. There we go, it's rolling now. I'll roll it a little bit more. So generally what that does is I'm now looking behind the blade. I rolled it up so it's more on a straight down, and this gives me a little bit more almost like a dozer edge, and I'm looking through. Again, important to see where you're still reversing to, but you can see this will actually fill in. So you don't want to roll it all the way in, otherwise could roll into your tracks there. But you'll see it's going to be it's carrying a load there behind, so it's going to do a better job on filling in any holes. A key here at the end of this is you don't just want to pick it up, otherwise you're going to leave a giant pile. So I'm going to take it out of float, and I'm going to let this trail off on its own. Pulling it up and down a little bit. right there. Now I can see my blades hanging, curl it back, and now I'm ready to go. Okay, the basics there. Now, a couple other things here. We're gonna go and change out forks real quick to show you an accessory. A lot of depending on the size of the machine, it may have a 2-speed. So for this, you see the rabbit up there. Most of them, I've actually got a button on, let me see which one it is. I think it's on the left side. Yep, you'll see on that engaged. When I click that button, it goes on or off. That'll tell you if you're in your 2-speed. So it'll be a little bit jerkier. Give it to the ass. A lot of times when I'm going distance, I tell people to put their hand on that hard lap bar right there. It'll kind of hold you in place. And now, go over real quick, swapping out. I'm going to take it out of 2-speed. It is a little bit jumpier there. So now, on the case, you'll see there are two. So this one has a quick attach, which most of the skid steers, if you're, most of them will have it automatically hydraulic controlled. Sometimes you have manual levers. On this one, you can see, you always want to have it curled in all the way. I've got up here this unlock button. So if I hit that and I give that thing, you see those little red bars that's popped up. If I let go of this and I do that again, you'll see how they went down. Those are actually the pins. And again, you'll have different indicators. Some machines will actually have bars that swing up and down. Either way, you should have a great way to be able to tell if it's on all the way. But right now in a disconnected, you always have it rolled up. I'm doing that. Okay. Hold that. There we go. Now I'll leave it there. So now the pins are up. Now I'm going to set it down and you just kind of roll it away. So you kind of just roll that lip off. So now I've got that off. And if I were to want to take forks and put them on. So these always connect. You'll see there's just a lip there. Right there. So you're trying to get that lip. Yeah, I have it uncurled away from me a little bit. You're trying to get that lip, and then as I'm going, just so I'm not scraping this attachment on the ground, I'm trying to roll it and maybe pull it up a little bit. Just trying to, so it doesn't do any damage to the ground. Once I have it there all the way, I'm curling it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to let that go, and there we go. Buttons off, unlocks, and you'll see my pins went down. Great way to test that is usually pushing down on your machine and see it'll pop off if it's not. The other thing sometimes for a new operator I tell them to do is you can see the pin locks. So right now, you can see those little, they're coming right through there. That's latching that onto that. So that's one way you can see those. Obviously, very important to make sure this thing's attached before you start picking up material. And same thing, disconnect it, unlock it, right down, roll it away. Try and work your way out of that. Kind of on a hill here. So that's that. And then I've got this thing free, and you can kind of cycle it here. Sometimes for a new operator, I tell them to get, so now without anything on there, I can see it pretty well. But if I hold this and see if I can see, well, it's going to be tough because I roll them all the way up. So I won't necessarily be able to see it. So that's attachments. Final thing I'll show you for an operator again, if you're ever trying to haul these together, great little way to, little tip and trick here. You can actually pick, now you can't attach them this way, but if you need to pick these up and haul them with a bucket, so I can hold it on there like this. Again, it's not going to lock. I'm going to back this up. Looking where I'm going behind me. Then all you do, just set these right in a dirt bucket. It's a great way if you're on if they're putting them on a trailer, you want to trailer them together. So now I've got that. I go down and lock on my dirt bucket. Whoa. Not that well like me. This newer machine is really touchy. And if you can't, so you see how I'm just getting one side on there. So sometimes you have to reposition. You'll see, depending on your bucket, you see my lip is really worn on these. So trying to make sure you can get that all the way under there and then get it right And you'll see how right now I've got the right side and I'm trying to roll it up a little bit to get it both on there. And then you're just, if I have to drive it forward, sometimes being lower. So I'm trying to hold some pressure there, but you'll see how that, so that wasn't easy. So sometimes when you do that though, see how I kind of, if I shake it a little bit when it's up like that, I can get it to roll on better. And then same thing, I'm gonna hold that button, let that down. Now that was not pretty, but what better thing for a training video than you guys to see when it doesn't go, because I still see my pins are all the way in now, and now that bucket's secured. Obviously the forks are not secured. So that's why you just wanna be careful in what you're doing there. So I am gonna set this down. Perfect. So when you park these things, first thing, you always want to make sure that boom's all the way down. For the fully enclosed, you're going to look like an idiot on a job site if you try and put it in park, try and open the door, and what you're going to realize really quickly, the doors won't open because you got part of that boom right up in front of it. So you always make sure it's all the way down. Then from there, parking brake on. So red here on the button, hit that once. I got a solid red P. This thing, they will auto engage too if you pull that up above you, and then seatbelt off. Then to shut off these, I'm basically gonna hit the power button right there. There we go. And from there, 3 points of contact getting out. Awesome, you guys. Thanks for watching this skid steer video. Again, tune into more videos on our YouTube channel. And again, thanks for United Rentals for letting us use the skid steer. Take care.